So my tip is, and I didn't even think of this, I just did it. So we've been buying a lot of raw milk and fresh farm eggs. And so I go out to this place in the middle of nowhere, and I notice so many pigeons everywhere. And I'm like, hey, if you want me to shoot some pigeons for you, I certainly can. Also, I love to duck and goose hunt. And they're like, well, we don't want anyone shooting near the cows and this and that. People ask us every year to goose hunt our pasture, and it has a big pond out there, and I'm just salivating as she's saying this. And she's like, yeah, but we don't let people goose hunt. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, it scares the cattle. I've never noticed it scaring cattle in my area, blah, blah, blah. Pick up my milk, pay for it, I'm out. She texts me one day, and she goes, hey, these pigeons are out of control. I need you to come and shoot them. I was like, cool. So I was like, I need to get milk anyway. Picked up 3 gallons of milk.
Nice.
And head out there and shot 10 pigeons for 25 shells. Not bad, honestly. Pretty proud of that.
Not
bad at all. And they didn't let me pay for the milk, which is pretty cool. And then she goes, well, yeah, if you want to shoot geese out here, in the fall, as long as you don't scare the cows, because I didn't see them like kicking every time you were shooting. I was like, right.
Yeah, right.
Like I was trying to tell you. And she goes, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can come and goose hunt here anytime you want. Just let me know when you're coming. I'm like,
that's awesome.
Absolutely. So my tip for you is to start getting permission now. Start finding pigeons. If it's a grass field and it's a good flight line, you're going to get goose hunting permission there if you have a good rapport with them.
Yes.
It's pretty cool. So that's my tip of the week.
I love that. Okay, I remembered my tip now.
Thank God.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, my tip is one that I think a lot of new guys, maybe it takes a little bit of time to start to realize. But when you're scouting and you find a field that has birds in it, I think a lot of people, get pretty excited and then kind of forget maybe there's like a little bit of a mental checklist if you're actually going to hunt this field. All right, so my tip for you is when you find a field with a bunch of birds in it, you need to take down a few mental notes, okay? So 3 mental notes that I think are super important to try and think about. Number 1, where are you going to hide? All right, so you get excited. It's a great spot, whatever, blah, blah. We got permission, yeah. And then you're like, oh, shit. Is there a tree line there? Is it tall grass? I kind of forget. I can't remember what's between the 2 fields, whatever, and you're calling all your buddies, and everyone's coming. But you still have no idea exactly how you're going to set up, and I can't tell you how many hunts I've been on where it's just like dudes walking out. People don't know if it should be an A-frame or a layout situation, but we brought A-frames, so that's what we're doing. And then you're just like, well, where are we putting it? And then people are arguing about the sun. So think about that. You find the field, figure out where you want to hide in that field, where you think is going to be a good spot. Number 2, what numbers of birds are in the field and how are they positioned, right? Is it really clumped up? Are they super tight? Are they spread out? Is it small family groups? Is there 100 birds? And be realistic. Or are there 500 birds? Okay?
Or are there 20 birds?
Or are there 20 birds?
Right.
Right? And so I think a really important thing is when you're setting a decoy spread, you want to mimic what you saw. If you're hunting 100 birds and you have 400 decoys in a field and they were in family groups and you have 400 pack just clumped up like a pile of shit, it's going to be pretty hard probably to convince those birds. It's the same thing you saw yesterday. Come on down. Okay? The last thing that I think is totally overlooked, where's the field approach? Okay? How many phone calls do you make and you're like, where do I enter the field? Where do I drive in? And they're like, well, I'll be there in a couple minutes. Just pull over by it and then I'll see you there. Think of where the field approach is in relation to the road that you're on, and then you can tell people it's a half mile up on the north side from County Road 472 or whatever it is. So those are the 3 things.
Me and my buddies, I made them get Onyx, and whenever we go to hunt a field, I make them send me a pin for where the field approach is so that doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Yeah, just put your Onyx pin on the field approach.
Yep.
But some way, somehow, those 3 things should pop into your head when you find a field before you frantically start calling your buddies and telling them that's where you're hunting.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible tip. And I think you're only missing one thing.
Yeah, add to me.
I want to add the one thing is, where are the birds coming from?
Yeah, big one.
Where are the frickin' birds coming from?
Yep.
Oh, they're coming from all directions. Hey, man. No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, they're not. Are they coming from the east? Are they coming from the north?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's set up our blinds accordingly. Because how many times do you have the wind at your back, and that's where the birds are coming from? Everyone's dicking around in their blinds.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, well, the birds keep coming from behind us, dude. So we should probably side shoot them so we can see them from further away so we're not spooked by them. And then also, if it's a traffic spot or a feed.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Makes a huge difference when you're setting up your spread, your hide, everything. So I think it's a great tip.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the best guys that I've ever, heard about / seen scouting that I really just enjoyed watching his process work as a guide. His name's Hunter Bedenbaugh. He was a guide for Dry Creek Outfitters.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Young dude, and he's got a college degree and has moved on to doing his, career. But he was there for a year, and Russ loved him. And so he would go scout, dude, and he would take notes. So he would have like 5-pack at 5:25 p.m. coming from south side, right? Or like 10-pack coming from north side at 5:37 p.m. And he would watch a field, notate every single thing that he saw, and take full list of notes. And then he would literally just send Russ notes about his scout.
Wow.
And so then like immediately Russ is like, I know everything about what this dude's seeing. I know where these birds are coming from. I know the roost they're on. I know the timestamps that they're getting there. And he's like, it just, really made a big difference. So anyway, that was kind of a cool deal.
Yep. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Carter, tip?
Yeah, so mine is more for the photographers and people just getting into the industry. Right now, a lot of people are like starting to book for their year. They're starting to get clients and stuff. When you're starting out, you should know what you're doing it for. Are you doing it for a hobby, or do you want to try to make a living? Because that'll help you set your rates for what you want to do and be competitive with other people in the industry. When I started out, my rates were really low because I was new, but it was also much lower than other new people because I just didn't know. So once I asked some people and figured out what their rates were, I was able to be more competitive. So I didn't undercut the rest of the photographers. And obviously that depends on like where you're taking photos or videos at, because a small outfitter here in Minnesota, I'm obviously going to have to charge less than a big duck camp or outfitter in Arkansas when I go.
Yeah, it depends on where you're photographing and what they expect of you, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yep. And if you undercut the industry, it devalues it for everybody else. And then in the future, if you try to make a career, then you're kind of screwing yourself over for if you're charging way lower than everybody else. You might be getting a lot more business, but you could be getting more money in the same amount of business if you just raise your prices a little bit.
Yeah, man. That's a great tip. And my question to you would be, what's your best advice then for like how people could actually get, advice on pricing? Like how have you learned and how can they learn quicker?
Just reach out to guys on Instagram.
Yeah.
Most of them are willing to give you a ballpark of what they charge. Try to reach out to people that are your same level. Like if you just started year one, don't ask Wade Shoemaker what he charges and charge that.
Right.
That just doesn't
you
make
won't
any
get
sense.
any work.
No, exactly.
You won't grow.
Reach out to some people that are around your same level or been doing it the same amount of time so you can try to be competitive with what they offer and not just undercut everybody else.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That actually goes for influencers too. 100%. How many guys are on a pro staff somewhere doing 200 photos a year for a 30% discount? Hey, guess what, dude? In the real world, not the hunting industry, those companies would have had to hire a photographer at a day rate. They would have had to stage and set up the photo shoots or the hunts or whatever it was. And then they would have to go there, and all year they'd be paying people who do it for a living to create those photos, those videos, all that stuff. And when you're just turning stuff in, right, these companies don't have a reason to pay for it. So if they're getting it for free, every other influencer that's doing what you're doing or wants to grow and wants to help people learn about duck or goose hunting or whatever, they're kind of feeling that in the back end too.
Well, and just even to touch on that, if you really think about what you're doing, like if you have a following and what you're doing and people are watching your stuff, you're essentially advertising and marketing for those people for free.
Yes.
Or a discount. And it's like, damn, if you're really hunting and you're really putting out a lot of content, you have to know your worth, like
Yeah.
100%. And you have to think of it from like a business perspective of like, oh my goodness, I am advertising for free for this person. Why am I doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
You
the
know?
reality is too, like you have to understand if you're going to start to do something like Midwest Flyways, or if you want to start a business, whatever it is, right? If you come out of the gates, the reality for you is you need to grow your awareness. You need to grow. Okay. And that takes time. So be prepared for the long haul. Like if you want to do it because you love it. Don't do it for the money, because I can promise you 7 years in, it ain't worth the money. So
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the thing is, though, is like that money will grow whether or not you've gotten it before as your following grows. So the more people that see you, the more you're worth, right? And your sponsorships and everything should grow. But if you're in a place where you're getting offered like discounts, but you have to turn in a bunch of stuff, dude, you're better off just buying the shit at full price or not buying it at all and then growing your following for a couple years.
Absolutely.
Just wait, dude. You
Those,
know?
when it comes to discounts and stuff, I'd say that's 50% on the photographer and the 50% on the company. Like companies should be paying people for their content.
Yeah, or at least giving them free product.
Yeah.
You know, a trade of gear and value, essentially. You know, discounts, dude. The other thing is, the minute you're a discount guy, if you turn in 200 photos a year for a 40% discount, they will not pay you.
No.
You're not going to get paid for your media.
There's a precedent set, and then it also
Correct.
screws over other people.
Yes.
Because when you start asking for money, they're just going to move on because people will send them in free photos for a discount.
Exactly.
Yeah. So don't hurt the industry, guys.
Don't hurt any industry.
Yeah.
Don't do anything for free
Don't do anything for free,
Yeah.
honestly.
unless it's worth doing for
Right.
that.